of it, but but they'll say, here's your monthly bill, and this is how many minutes there are in a month, so your minutes are worth this much. That's exactly how they'll do it.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Not the importance of the minutes.
Is it worth my time? Is it really worth my time to go through all of that and just go here?
Just to hassle somebody. It's always worth your time to hassle somebody, Don.
If you use the U.S. mail, you will lose money by buying a stamp.
There's no doubt about that. I'm not a fan, as you know, of the post office. But this is not a show to bitch and complain about the post office.
Since when?
We can complain about anything.
We can, and we do.
We bitch and complain about lots of stuff.
Yes, we do.
That's right.
Wow.
All right.
I have some things that I wanted to run by us. Back to the car stuff that we normally do.
And I think we're back on. I think we're back on the air.
Good. Hyundai and Kia have issued recalls for more than 570,000 vehicles. 570,000, over 500,000.
That's a lot.
Urging owners to park their vehicles outside and away from homes and other structures until the recall is remedied. The affected vehicles are model years 22 and 23, Hyundai Santa Cruz, 19 to 23 Hyundai Santa Fe, 21 to 23 Santa Fe Hybrid, 22 to 23 Santa Fe Plug-in Hybrid, and 22 to 23 Kia Carnival.
Yeah, don't park your car in the garage because it may
Until
burn.
the free recall repair is completed, owners should continue to park their vehicles outdoors and away from other vehicles or buildings, even if the vehicle is turned off.
But it's
An
okay
electrical
to drive
short
it.
could potentially start a fire in the tow hitch harness module. Owners should contact their Hyundai or Kia dealership to schedule a free repair. But
once they figure one out.
Yeah. Tow hitch harness module. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's back at the hitch.
Wherever that module is
Wherever
located.
that module is located.
And that can be anywhere in the car.
Oh, but let's not stop there.
Let's recall something else.
Snow or ice buildup might cause the windshield wiper motor to fail or operate intermittently on the 21 to 23 Hyundai Palisade. It's being recalled along with 166,999 others from the 21 through 23 model year. Windshield wiper failure.
Yeah, but those two will work together. At least while the car's on fire, the snow will melt.
Well, the fix is going to be issuing everybody a fire extinguisher.
I'm sorry, that was nasty.
It was good. I liked it. There's other recalls. Seatbelt buckle may not latch, and a whole bunch of Acuras and Hondas.
That way you can get out quicker when the car's on fire.
Rivian side curtain airbag improperly secured. All of these are recalls. Ford Maverick inoperative trailer tail lights. Front brake hoses may rupture on the Ford Fusion and the Lincoln MKZ.
That's not
2013 through 2018. What year is Kathy's?
13.
It's a 13. Okay. Well,
It's a
front
Fusion,
brake hoses may rupture. That's her.
Yeah. She's waiting on, if she gets a recall, she gets a recall.
Have you gotten the letter in the mail yet? No, not yet. Windshield wipers may fail in the Ford F-150. There seems to be some commonality here about windshield wipers all of a sudden. That's for the F-150 2021 model year.
Test.
And the Ford Bronco is being recalled for the rear view camera. It may malfunction on the 21 to 22 model years.
Wow.
The Bronco steering wheel may lock up while driving.
No.
And the Ford Bronco for 22 and 23.
Hopefully not while you're backing up and you can't see where you're going because the camera's broke.
And it's on fire.
And it's on fire.
It's on fire.
Okay, time now for a quick break here on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. We're back after this. Stay with us.
Tailpipes and Tacos, Houston's premier car cruise in returns Saturday, April 15th to the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m. Bring your Hot Rod, Classic, Resto Mod, or any other vehicle you'd like to show and compete for one of 3 highly coveted Chili Pepper trophies. This April 15th kickoff event is one you'll want to put on your calendar because 100% of the money you donate for the free tacos will be given to God's Garage. You heard right. Free tacos. Whatever you decide to give, all of it will be given to God's Garage and matched by Lupi Tortilla. God's Garage gifts vehicles to single mothers, widows, and wives of deployed military in the greater Houston area. In fact, the garage will gift a vehicle to a mom in need at this special event. Be sure to attend the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In, Saturday, April 15th, 8 to 11 a.m. at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Free breakfast tacos for any donation to God's Garage. It'll make your heart and your belly feel good. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Real Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Real Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InRealTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Real Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. Live on the Smoke and Mirrors Network, it's the In Real Time Car Talk Show. Coming up, how to get a car from point A to point B without driving it.
All right.
Think about that for a minute. I drove the Ford F-150 Raptor R, and I'm going to give you my impression of it. We'll also have the cruise-in calendar, and later Conrad has This Week in Auto History, along with the stories making automotive news headlines. It's just ahead on the In Real Time Car Talk Show. Howdy, along with Mike out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday in our live version of this chaos.
Are we sure?
Well, we thank you for joining us.
We are up and running.
Are we up and running? So we've had some issues with the fine Xfinity folks once again, and we thank them for that, the Chaos crew.
Yes, and Verizon was a lot of help, too.
Yeah.
Our backup Verizon was
We're all being sarcastic with this, but at any rate, we hope that you're able to see us and hear us wherever you are.
We just put some
And
ointment
Don
on it.
pays extra for this rotten service.
I do. I pay a lot of money for that rotten service. Pardon me. All right. Let's get on to our interview. He's the boss at the Montway Auto Transport Company. His name is Mike Trudeau. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Well, we're great. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm just going to read this. A recent Kelley Blue Book study found that nearly 1 in 5 new car sales in 2022 was pre-ordered, which was an 89% increase from 2021. That's kind of surprising, actually. But I think that that's the way it's going these days, because it's not like it used to be where you'd walk on the dealer's lots.
And you'd have 1,000 cars in inventory.
Yep.
Yeah, and you'd have, 75 of them at the Skylark or whatever it is that you go in there to see. So you don't have this. So I think that people have really gotten into ordering cars because you. Pardon me?
Skylarks are cool.
I was just using that as an example. Sorry. And so, Mike, I got the feeling that you're the kind of guy that takes cars from point A to point B when it comes to that sort of stuff. Now, you involved when it comes to the car comes off the rail system here in Houston and it goes from the rail over to the dealership? Are you one of those kind of guys?
No, I mean, do we do some of those? Yes, but our primary business is more in the used car space for dealerships.
Yep.
So, I mean, whether it's a home delivery for used cars or picking up their cars from the auction or now private customers or the online platforms that they buy. Our goal is to get the car on the used car lot as fast as possible so they can get it sold.
So what kind of equipment do you use to transport these cars? I mean, we're talking about one of those, dozen car carrier kind of things, 18-wheeler like?
We use all different types of equipment. So, I mean, we're a third-party logistics company. So, our job is known in the industry as a broker. Our job is to create the relationships with the carrier base, whether they have a 1-car trailer, 3-car, 5-car, 7, 8, 9. And then we look to take the freight and really act as their sales arm to make sure that they keep their trucks loaded.
But you guys do more than just used car operations. You will do transportation of vehicles for individuals, correct?
Yes, yeah. We were founded back about 16 years ago, and our original founder really started the company moving individual cars, 1 car at a time, for what we call personally owned vehicles, whether it's the snowbirds or people moving because of relocation. About 5 years ago, we really wanted to get into the B2B space, and to you guys' point, home delivery, pre-ordering cars, moving 1 car at a time really has become really relevant. And one of the great things about Montway is that because we always moved 1 car at a time for personally owned vehicles, we built a network of single car carriers across the country. So when dealers do buy 1 car at a time and they have 1 in Maine, 1 in Florida, and they need to get them back to Houston, we're a perfect company to call to be able to manage their inventory to be able to get the cars in whatever states that they buy in.
So when Carvana goes belly up soon and they have all these really cool car transporters, I assume that you're the first in line to go buy those things and take that name off the side of it and put it on Montway Auto Transport.
Hopefully our drivers do. I mean, our goal is really just to be the broker. We don't own any assets or any equipment of our own. So we're really just the third party logistics company. So hopefully some of our carrier partners that we use out there will buy more trucks.
Yeah, I
snap those up.
Yeah, I've moved 2 vehicles from California to Houston, and Montway was my broker both times. Did a wonderful job. Yep. Moved Austin's 2004 GMC Yukon back when he went to Australia, and then when he gave up his car altogether living in San Francisco, we sent his Honda Accord back.
So, Mike, when I want to move a car, how would Conrad find you? Do you just Google auto transporters?
Yeah, if you Googled auto transporters and you were you're just a private individual and wanted to move a car, you could go right to our website, at montway.com, and be able to submit a quote, and then you can submit the order right online. Someone will contact you to verify everything, and we'll pick up your car and get it delivered.
Now, your guys aren't any of those guys that sit on the side of the road typing in bids that I've seen on TV, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys aren't one of those kind of guys, are you?
No, and I mean, for the dealers listening, I would definitely go to the business page on the website and call in. Pricing options vary.
Yeah,
especially for larger volume dealers.
And is there like an option? I haven't looked. I'm having computer problems anyway. What if I want it covered? I want to move my 65
Skylark
GTO across the country. I mean, is there an option to get like covered or enclosed?
Yep, absolutely. So you can. There's on the quoting function. There's a button you can hit to either do open or enclosed.
And one of the
inoperable, all that fun stuff.
And one of the other things I remember was the timing of the pickup and delivery was, I'll say, flexible, and that flexibility gave you a flexibility in price. If you were willing to wait to get that vehicle moved from California to Houston, and let them schedule it. They gave me a discount in doing it. I imagine that was because you guys were using a car on the way by, or a transport that was kind of in the area that had space on it to move the vehicle, is kind of the way I understood it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that always helps, but I mean, ultimately, the longer you have in the retail space to schedule a carrier, the more further advanced they can do their route planning. So typically, you can pass along a better savings to the customer if they're flexible and willing to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just cheap and willing to wait, and it worked out great. The guy had loaded it up in Fresno, and called me, dropped it off at the he pulled into the Lowe's parking lot, unloaded the truck, and I drove it home.
Cool. That works.
About 2 miles from the house.
Yeah.
And really, he couldn't get it to my house because he was in one of the, I'm assuming, the 8-car haulers, like you see the dealerships get their vehicles on it, and there was a lot of other vehicles on it, so he couldn't get into my neighborhood. Well, he probably could have got in the neighborhood. He couldn't turn around and get out.
Be in your neighborhood. That's what it is.
So we arranged to get it dropped off at the Lowe's.
All right, so here's another question for you. What if I don't really care how the car gets here? Can you supply a driver and just drive the car to me?
We don't offer drive away, but there's definitely companies out there that do.
Really? How funny. So why – no, let me rephrase that. When somebody calls you and wants to have a car from San Francisco to Houston, they want to get a car here, just a regular plain 4-door Honda Accord that's been in the family for a while, they want to get it moved here. Is there a general idea of how long that process takes? If I don't have an actual time that I need it here right away or anything like that, and I can schedule it with you, what is the usual turnaround time for that car to be picked up, put on a carrier, brought here?
I mean, really, it's about your schedule. I mean, typically when we receive an order, and if what we call the first available date is what we try to hit. So, I mean, you really get the flexibility to choose that as a customer. Usually it takes about 2.5 days to, once you receive an order, to find a carrier and then get it picked up. And then the days in transit, typically carriers, if you're moving one car, travel on average about 350 miles a day. If the full truckload is yours, they can travel up to 500 miles a day. So whatever that in-transit time is.
So you actually have dealers or retailers that will load up a vehicle, let's say from San Francisco, where you've got 9-10 cars that you bought out there at auction from somebody that you know, and you want to get them back here to Houston, then you would get one of your larger carriers to bring that whole load here at one time. Is there a discount for that sort of thing?
There can be, yeah, absolutely. More for dealers. I mean, the two segments of business are really different. So, I mean, on the retail side for the personally owned vehicles, it usually typically is always one car at a time.
Gotcha.
Dealers can be one car up to 8 cars at a time or 20 cars at a time.
Right.
So, I mean, it just kind of varies based off of what the inventory mix is. And I mean, and we treat the dealer customers differently. There's some different type of technology we have. And typically dealers, once they buy a car, they want to get it on their lot.
Now, do you have in the dealer space, do you have transports, not that, and again, you don't own the asset, but your transport guys, are they somewhat based
you guys
near
having some internet problems?
Yeah, are they somewhat based near some of these big auto auctions where it's easy to call? You get a call from, dealer A, and he says, "Hey, I just got bought 15 cars at the, at the San Francisco auction. I need them in Houston." And so you have somebody that's relatively close just to facilitate that for you, or do you still have to wait until something happens and that guy's there ready to move for you?
I think we lost him.
We lost him.
Mars is
Our
shaking his head.
internet sucks.
So
We did, yeah.
And I'm good here. I'm good at my end.
Well, I was on a different one.
Well,
and we dropped it.
one of the other things I learned, and again, this was, us moving Austin's truck. We wanted to kind of load it up with a bunch of stuff and get that all to come home. Some of it was like multiple cases of wine, and they said, no, you can't load a bunch of freight in the vehicle and then have us move it either. And that was actually the term they used. Well,
freight.
It's not freight. It's just personal belongings. I said, no, you can't have
Go juice.
You can't load it up with a whole bunch of personal belongings. And
Maybe if you offered them a bottle or two.
Yeah. Well, and Rochelle said when the guy picked it up, they kind of looked inside to make sure it wasn't loaded. There was some stuff in it, but it just wasn't loaded up
Like the
above
trunk of your
seats.
Oldsmobile.
Or the
Duct tape and
or
rope.
or the Yukon I'm driving. Actually, that's the one we had sent back from San Francisco.
That Yukon?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Austin drove it down to Fresno, and then we waited for the guy to show up in Fresno to pick it up.
The
and take
tranny
it.
went out.
You can't use that word anymore. There are words in the car business we're not allowed to use anymore.
And tranny is one
that's
of them?
One of them, yeah. It's
Is it considered a derogatory term if you use the word tranny?
Well, the
By
car,
s- by
car
some
was in
people.
San Francisco. I just figured
Here we go, Mars. The wheels are about to fly off of this vehicle. You know that, don't you?
it took me an hour and 14 minutes.
So let me just read this because I think this is interesting stuff with Mike Trudeau. Sorry we lost him. A recent Kelley Blue Book study found that nearly 1 in 5 new car sales in 2022 was pre-ordered, which was an 89% increase from 2021. It's been noted that ordering your vehicle directly from a dealer has led to shorter wait times and more transparency in tracking the car through production and delivery, as buyers are now more than ever likely to order a vehicle online, wait for delivery. The rise of single unit moves is now in high demand. I would understand that.
Yeah.
well, when you go on to some of these websites and they say, we're a national company. Let's pick AutoNation for one, and you're searching for a used car on AutoNation. Well, that inventory may be every dealership across the country.
Right.
Is what you're picking that inventory from. So they have to have a provider like Montway that can move that inventory for them somewhat unseen.
Well, it says here, as dealers continue to source vehicles from multiple outlets and channels outside their local markets, a strategy has been growing post-pandemic. 40% are more significant than 150 miles. 40%, that's a lot, which is out of range for local auction transporters, creating an increased need for safe and reliable nationwide auto transportation services to help them better manage their inventory and meet customer demands. Now, what is not noted here are those cars that go on a train, a car train, as it were, to Mexico. Because our freeway right over here on US 59, I can't tell you how many of those pass headed to Mexico. They buy them here at auction. They take the bumpers off. They connect the two cars together, and down to Mexico they go. And there's usually about 6 cars, sometimes
In a caravan.
8, in a caravan headed down to Mexico.
And when I worked for AutoNation as a buyer rep, the folks that did transport, they actually had offices in the auction facility itself. So you could go and make your agreement and your contracts. But with AutoNation, they had the regulars. They had their folks that continually moved inventory for them. Because they would buy 6, 20, 50 cars at a time and distribute them to this location, that location, and that location. And they would let them go.
And that's where you need somebody like Montway to coordinate all of that
Right.
as they funnel together into the transport system. And then as they move out, and then they have to kind of splinter out to different places.
Yeah.
to
Like I
go.
thought of it like the auctions, like Mecum. They'll, particularly when they come to Houston, they'll be doing somebody's collection. Last year they were doing somebody's collection out of Arizona, so they've got these 40 or 50 cars that are classic. I mean, these are expensive
High-end
cars
cars.
that they've got to move from that collection site
Here
to here.
to roll across the.
So I mean,
Stage.
that's going to take some logistics
And
to get those kind of vehicles.
You would
moved.
think with a classic car, an expensive car like that, and then the Haggerty insurance companies, they probably have a specific carrier for them that they know is not going to damage a car or not a fly-by-night type.
And
Yeah.
and you see the orange. I know them
Reliable.
as reliable.
Reliable,
is one that the high end people use a lot. I remember when we did when I was working for Oldsmobile and we were doing car shows. down at the Astro Hall or whatever it was, where the car show used to be before what it is now. Reliable would haul the show cars in. Now, most of the cars that were in the shows were locally sourced cars from dealerships, and we'd order them in, and then after the show, those cars would be distributed out to various dealers in the city. But some of those cars were, show cars, and Reliable was typically the one with
Concept
dealers.
cars, yeah, that sort of thing. I think
Cool.
that it's very interesting to see how all of that works. It's all behind the scenes that most people don't really understand. I certainly don't understand all the workings of it, but I'll tell you what, the local transporters that actually deliver cars from the railhead, and there's a couple of them here. One is
Jackie
over
Cooper's the big one here in town.
there's one over by Hobby Airport, very large lot over there that generally comes from the Freeport area south of town. Then there's the one up off the Hardy Toll Road, and that one is about the same size as the one over by Hobby Airport. And so they'll either inbound or outbound on those cars out there. It's truly amazing.
And they drive them off the train and park them in a lot, and then somebody shows up with a truck and starts hauling them to the dealerships.
Now, here we also have the ship channel, and Volkswagen has a very large storage facility
Yes, they
right
do.
there at the port.
Yep.
And all the Volkswagen stuff goes there.
Volkswagen, Audi.
Right. And but others that come off the boat, they'll usually go to one of the transport sites near a railhead somewhere. For instance, a Honda or one of the.
And they may be moving further inland in the
Correct.
country, because they don't want to. Truly, they don't want to haul the new car companies. They don't want to haul a vehicle 1,000 miles on a truck. They would rather move it 895 miles on a train,
Right.
and then the last 100 miles on a truck.
Yeah.
For any assortment of reasons. And some of those reasons are on a train, damage can occur, depending on where the vehicle is parked. And we've seen, I'd seen this for years. Train brakes, when they apply, they put off a metallic dust, and that metallic dust can damage the paint on a vehicle, and you would see that. And that would, and so when it'd show up at the dealership, they'd either have to make some repairs or they'd have to clean it up. And then vehicles that are moved on the road on a truck that are not enclosed, they're subject to road debris, rocks and bugs and stuff.
Yep.
So
It's a very interesting business,
Yep.
and it's a business within a business, really, and it's a lot of money.
when I searched getting those two vehicles moved, oh my gosh, you talk about being annoyed by everybody. All of a sudden, I did the search for moving a vehicle from San Francisco, well, actually Fresno to Houston. I'm getting emails and phone calls from 50 different companies.
I got me a truck. I got
Yeah.
two guys in a truck.
Chuck in a truck.
Kathy bought hers, and hers was built. She built it online. They shipped it after it was built to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix into Houston.
Interesting.
That was the path of her car getting to her.
Seems out
All
of
right.
the way.
Well, let's do the cruise-in calendar right now, shall we?
Sure.
Moving
We shall.
along. Okay. Sorry, Mike Trudeau, if you're still listening. Hopefully, we'll get back with you one day soon and talk about.
So the Baytowns Lions Club Gumbo Fest and car show is at the VFW post off of Main Street in Baytown today, through the lunch hour. Also today is the LCISD Auto Fest down in Rosenberg, and that's a fundraiser for their automotive department. This afternoon, starting at noon, is Hot Rods and High Heels. I'm assuming Don's
I'm in. Oh my God! I want the red one.
and that's on 3420 Rusk Street in Houston.
What time?
Rusk. That's downtown.
Yep. And that's vintage only car show.
And what time?
Noon, starts at noon.
It's going to be a beautiful day today.
It
by
is.
the way.
It's gorgeous.
And then also at noon is the Corpus Christi car show at the American Bank Center off of Shoreline Boulevard
You know
in
what? I
Corpus
think my
Christi.
cousin Douglas will probably be there. Douglas lives down. My cousin Doug lives down in Corpus.
And then the Camaro Cruise and Meet starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow at Buc-ee's in Katy. So everybody's going to meet out there, and they're going to roll out at 11 o'clock and kind of do some, it's now time to go cruise the Bluebonnets.
Well,
because the Bluebonnets are in bloom.
Parking spot at Buc-ee's would be the only challenge, I think.
And then also Tomball local-only cars meet at the Coles off of 2920 in Tomball. The Thundersticks Car Show on 501 South Austin Avenue in Georgetown is tomorrow at 9 a.m. And the car meet at the Willis Discount Furniture.
What you talking about, Willis?
Willis, Texas. I
Willis,
knew you'd
Texas.
like that one.
All right, time now for this hour's car review. Had a chance to drive the 2023 Ford F-150, and it comes in many trim levels.
How many?
Starts with the XL, then it goes to the XLT, the Lariat, the King Ranch, the Platinum, the Limited, the Tremor, the Raptor, and the Raptor R. I had the Raptor R.
Of course, you had the top of the line F-150.
Wait till you find out how much that car, the sticker is on that truck. All right, it's a standard pickup truck. Holds 5 people, including the driver. Changes, well, it's all new for this year, the Raptor R. Okay? Exterior features include clearance lights moved from the top of the cab down to the top of the grill. Don't know why they did that, but it looks cool, but that serves no purpose.
So you don't peel them off in a covered garage.
The clearance lights on the top of the cab were there for a purpose. Now they're just in the grill to be in the grill, I guess.
Show.
Yeah. Visible skid plate under the front bumper. Big, meaty tires on beadlock rims. Graphics package. I'm not sure whether they package the graphics package with the car, and then you decide if you want them put on there, and the dealership puts it on. It used to be like that.
Is that how it happened?
That's the way it used to be. Now I think that they may be applied at the factory. I'm not sure. But it's up to you. You don't have to have the graphics package because there is an upcharge for that.
Option.
Yeah. What I liked about it, those big, fat fenders. And you know what kept them from making the fenders even bigger to hold the tires? Transporters.
Oh yeah, because they have to be able to fit on the transport truck.
The width was determined by the width of the actual transporter.
I'll be darned.
That's how they did it, because I asked the question. Anyway, interior highlights. Recaro black leather seats.
Oh, gosh.
I know it. Fold-down shifter to allow for the console cover to become a desk. Wireless phone charger allows to see the screen where it's placed.
So you like that wireless phone charger?
That's the only way to go. Don't you agree, Morris?
Well, I agree, and the one that's sitting in that vehicle I'm driving now is even better.
Yeah, I've never used one.
Beautiful dash, big 13.4-inch screen, easy to use and understand. Plenty of storage, including under the rear seat. What I liked about it, the comfort and the well-placed controls. What could use improvement? They could do away with that shifter and go to a rotary knob. It'd be a whole lot easier.
No. I mean, because they got it where it'll fold down anyway, so you know it's not.
It's not connected to anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So the engine is a 5.2-liter supercharged V8, turning out 700 horsepower.
Only.
And 640 pound-feet of torque through a 10-speed automatic transmission.
Yikes.
Tow rating is 8,700. Haul rating 1,400. It gets 10 miles per gallon in the city and 15 on the highway.
And it'll haul donkey.
Yeah.
Lots of dogs.
I got 12.6 miles per gallon
you
over.
were feathering that baby.
I was feathering it all the way. I did not get into it. I didn't try to burn rubber. Nothing else. Let's see. I don't want to put gas in this thing because it's going to cost me a fortune. 358 miles is what I went. Still had to add a few gallons to make sure that I gave it back with a quarter of a tank. What I liked about it, the power, baby. What could use improvement? The power to weight ratio. This thing weighs 3 tons.
Wow.
It's a very heavy vehicle, so it loses some of that 700 horsepower through the weight that it has to haul around all the time.
So do I.
Right, yeah. Ride and handling, pretty good with steel springs and Fox shocks. What could use improvement? It's a desert runner for the street. So there's nothing really to say about what could use improvement because it's a truck made as a desert runner.
And it is the improvement over the base Raptor because this is the Raptor R, so
With
it's
the
a little
V8.
bit more performance to it.
Right. The Equipment Group 802A costs $31,575, and I will assume that Equipment Group includes the engine upgrades and all the stuff with the V8. That's all I could think of. Base trim price, $109,145.
For the Raptor R.
Price is tested, $1,009.
100,000. No.
$100,009 and $109,740. I'm not used to those six figures.
Yeah, when you got that many.
Base model price is $41,530. All right. And competitors, the Ram TRX, $86,250 with 702 horsepower. The Chevy ZR2.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd call that a competitor because the GM doesn't have the power that the Raptor has.
They have one in the works, a V8 supercharged with 682 horsepower. It's in the works. It's coming. Just stay tuned and cool your jets. And nothing from Toyota or from Nissan. And that's my review of the 2023 Ford Raptor F-150R.
Did it draw attention when people saw it was a Raptor R?
It didn't have the graphics package on the side.
Okay.
I'm really glad
But didn't the R on the Raptor at the end?
Yes, the Raptor at the very end is red.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Signifies
Want to
R.
remind everybody that the In-Wheel Time Car Talk show is available 24/7 through the iHeartRadio app. Just look for In-Wheel Time Car Talk. We also video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. No thanks to Xfinity. Podcasts are at your fingertips on over a dozen of the most popular podcast outlets. In-Wheel Time Car Talk show continues right after this quick break.
Tailpipes and Tacos, Houston's premier car cruise-in returns Saturday, April 15th to the Lupe Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m. Bring your Hot Rod Classic, Restomod, or any other vehicle you'd like to show and compete for one of 3 highly coveted Chili Pepper trophies. This April 15th kickoff event is one you'll want to put on your calendar because 100% of the money you donate for the free tacos will be given to God's Garage. You heard right. Free tacos. Whatever you decide to give, all of it will be given to God's Garage and matched by Lupe Tortilla. God's Garage gifts vehicles to single mothers, widows, and wives of deployed military in the greater Houston area. In fact, the Garage will gift a vehicle to a mom in need at this special event. Be sure to attend the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In, Saturday, April 15th, 8 to 11 a.m. at the Lupe Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Free breakfast tacos for any donation to God's Garage. It'll make your heart and your belly feel good.
It's the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show coming up. You've wanted a buzz all morning long, and we're going to give you one. It's Buzz Smith,
baby.
And we'll go round and round on electric cars. Conrad has This Week in Auto History, and we'll get you caught up on the stories making car news this week. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's just get right to it, shall we? There he is, out in the backyard, gardening this morning. It's Buzz Smith. Buzz, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Don. I bet you're doing great today.
I'm almost afraid to ask. Why do you think that?
He's sober.
No, it said, I'm sure you're just champing at the bit to bring up Ford losing or saying they're going to lose $3 billion on EVs this year.
You know, it's so funny you should mention that.
I bet it is.
Because you know that I have got some EV news for you, and you've already struck on one of those. Let me dig down in here. Oh, well, here's one. Scratched your EV battery, your insurer may have to junk the whole car. How about that one? Did you see that story?
Yeah, I saw that FUD.
Well, we'll get to that later then.
And by the way, just so you know,
yeah.
I actually did scratch my battery during a snowstorm up here. I was in a parking lot and couldn't even see this one curb and went over it. And this horrible grating noise along the bottom of my battery, I'm just horrified. And there's a protective shield under it on my car that had been destroyed. It was just hanging like a flap loose. And I took it back to the dealer, terrified about how much damage had been done. And they replaced the shield. Everything's fine. So, again, that article is a bunch of FUD out there.
Okay.
All right.
So should I even? I'm not even going to bother. If
No, don't.
yeah, okay. We're not even going to go there. But I'll read the story when you're not on the air with us, so I can rail on it. Okay.
There you go.
Well, the other thing is about Ford losing, I don't know, $3 billion or something because of their
And
investment.
$2 billion last year.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of money. But this goes to the whole journalism thing. So somebody somewhere in the editorial meeting said, ooh, let's just go ahead and go on to that $3 billion. Well, when you build something completely different,
It's a huge investment.
it's a huge investment. And all of the car companies are doing it. It's not just Ford.
Yeah, Mary Barrett, General Motors, is going, hold my beer and watch this.
It's even better than that. Volkswagen just announced, I believe the number was they're investing 198 billion euros
Wow.
in EV development. So this is something that's coming in, and Don kind of touched on it here with the editorial meeting.
Yeah.
The editorial meeting, it's like, okay, what's going to get people to click on this article?
That's exactly right, my friend.
Clickbait.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
But I think you had an excellent point there. This is a completely different thing. And whenever a new product comes out, one of the naysayer usual things that they'll come up with is how much they're losing per car. And in the Ford announcement, they also there was another article I saw that said that right now Ford is losing $30,000 each on their EVs. And yeah, if you're building a brand new, and Ford calls it the Blue Oval, that brand new manufacturing facility specifically.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, the plan of the manufacturers is kind of amateurize that out over time and volume. So when they shorten the time on it, the losses are greater. But when you look at the plan for this to be, a 10 or 12-year program, the losses spread out over that longer distance period of time can actually become profit because your profit starts to turn deeper into the program when you've paid off all of your initial investment.
Yeah.
And that's the case in anything.
And if you're just joining us and want to know what's going on, why did we lose Buzz? No, he didn't hang up on us. We've had all sorts of
It's a
internet.
government conspiracy.
That's right. We've had all sorts of internet issues here this morning. Thank you, Xfinity, who texted me and said, we've got problems in the area. You should be back up and running at 8:45. Guess what? That was 50 minutes ago,
Yeah.
and we still obviously have the problem.
And I had to reboot everything multiple times. But what I've done is I put Buzz's information up on the screen for those that are watching the show for greencarreports.com through Buzz, pluginamerica.org. That's get a hold of Buzz. That's what you do.
And he is the EV angelist. And that's why we have him on the show. He is the subject matter expert when it comes to EVs that we know. And, and he can provide a point of view that I don't think any of the four of us have.
No.
But he can also provide lots of information. He does a lot of his own personal research to do this.
And he'll help you with the tax information too. He's got all that just at the tip of his tongue. You can just rattle that off.
And Buzz has been hired by manufacturers to go in and do training at their dealerships on the EVs, and it was an integral part of the Houston Car Show the last couple of years as Evolve
Houston.
Evolve Houston brought him in as their subject matter expert on EVs to help educate the public, because educating the public's going to be an important part of EV's success. Because Buzz would consider us the uneducated public. Is that correct, Buzz?
No, you're becoming the educated public via me.
Oh, via you.
That's why we have you on the show.
Yeah.
So did you lose my audio there for a minute, or did
Yeah.
you hear about the Ford T3 project?
No, we didn't.
we lost-
We
we
want
lost
to hear about that.
We put your screenshot up for your.
Oh,
information.
okay. So,
And we're going back to.
All right. So why don't we scratch this, and you can reschedule Buzz for another day, Mr. Mars?
What I'm going to suggest
have
is
internet.
that we drop the video and just go strictly with audio.
Well, that's fine.
See if we can get enough bandwidth.
Why do
to
you think
that?
that'll work?
Because it doesn't take near as much bandwidth.
Okay, well, you're the boss in that area. I don't know anything
And
about
plug
that.
them back in at noon for the next interview.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, I think that it's very interesting about the way that things are evolving, so to speak.
Touche.
I will say this, that there is a lot of interest, and I read somewhere this week that about 1/3 of new car buyers are actually interested in finding out more about an EV. So the interest level keeps continuing to get bigger, and that's a good thing.
Well, you are our range anxiety expert, and you've had a number of EVs, and everyone you've had.
I'm thinking about changing my name to Nervous Nelly.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, because
We'll think of a better one, but we'll start
Yeah,
there.
yeah, we'll start with that.
yeah, at least the ones that we can say on the air.
But
Today we can say anything because nobody's going to hear it.
Well, there's that.
But you've also said you've enjoyed some of the EVs you've driven,
I have.
and that's
You know,
good
I
news.
will tell you this, and I said it when I reviewed it, and that was the Chevy Bolt EV. And it is an EV. It's a strict, pure electric vehicle. And it's not a Tesla. It doesn't claim to be. It doesn't look like one. It looks on the interior like a regular car. And it delivers like it's supposed to.
what they promise it
Yeah,
will.
and it doesn't have 300 miles worth of battery life on it per charge. It doesn't have that. It claims 225 miles or whatever.
But you plugged it in when you got there, and you plugged it back in when you got home.
I
You
just
never
kept
had
it
an issue.
right. When I parked it in a place that had a plug, and it was a 110 outlet like I've got here at the house, and it worked for me. My biggest fear, and it's kind of changed a little bit now. I'm not so much caught up on the actual driving per day. I know that it's going to take all day for it to charge at 110 volts on the 30 miles it takes me to get to work. It's going to take all day on 110 to charge back
recover
up
that,
to
yeah.
100. And same thing when I get home. Obviously, it's the same amount of miles. But it worked. It took about 6 hours for it to recover that 30 miles that I put on it. But that's kind of what that car is made for.
How much reserve did you have after that 30?
Oh, it only used about a third,
Okay.
if that.
Maker's Mark Reserve.
Yeah.
Maker's Mark Reserve.
Well, and again, your level of expectation needs to be correct for the vehicle you're buying.
You have to be in a position that you're ready to change your habits. It's not, you just can't go to the Sunoco station and fill up in less than 5 minutes. It's not that way. You bypass the Sunoco station and you take it to work and you plug it in when you get to work. And as long as work has got, the capability of giving you some juice, electric juice, to charge it, you're good. And, if you have that kind of mindset, you're good.
Well, and I think the Chevy Bolt was kind of, and this might not phrase out correctly, but I think that's where Buzz cut his teeth, was at the Chevrolet dealership up in Grapevine, and the Bolt being, Volt originally, and then the Bolt being their primary
EV1.
vehicle.
EV1.
Well, yeah.
Now, they have things at the airport where they've got a
Charging
generator.
station?
No, a thing that they plug onto the airplanes out on the tarmac.
Uh-huh.
Could you theoretically,
Theoretically, no,
Theoretically
you
plug it in.
cannot. No. It's a different kind of connection, and it's got a long, flat, 3-prong receptacle.
But you could roll a diesel generator on the back of a
Yeah.
Ford Raptor
Well,
R and
that's the
roll up to an
alternative.
EV and
Yeah.
charge
no,
the
but the
EV
big
that way.
APUs, I think they call them.
Yeah.
Auxiliary power
units.
Yeah, but those are ground units that I'm talking about, and most airplanes have their own built-in jet engine. Actually, it's separate from the thrusters on the outside that hang underneath the wings. It's a separate small jet engine, and the reason they do that is because it burns jet fuel, and that's what's on the aircraft. And so they'll sit there and run for hours, running the air conditioning inside.
While you're stuck inside the
tube.
airplane going, let me out. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I could care less that it's snowing in Pittsburgh. I'm going to Phoenix.
Yeah. And of course, the big commercial airliners like Southwest and all, they hook up their great big, ginormous tubes of air conditioning underneath, and that's a whole separate thing altogether. But
Sky King, that's what we'll call him.
Sky King.
Remember that show?
I certainly
an old
do.
TV show.
Very old.
With the V-tail?
Yep. And as a matter of fact, I talked to pilots about that.
Was that a Cessna Bonanza with the V-tail?
I don't know.
Didn't they call those doctor planes? Doctors used to fly those.
Oh, that I don't know.
So I wonder if Buzz knows when they're going to start doing electric planes. I know there's conversation about them. Would you fly in an electric plane, Buzz?
Can we get Buzz back? Can we get him back?
He's there.
He's there.
Want
I
to get
don't
him
know if
back?
he can hear us.
There he is.
No.
No.
Let's just not even
Trying to get him to come in on the phone.
Yeah. Well, that's not going to work because we're running out of time. But I will tell you that the EV technology, everybody's going that way. It is going to create a lot of interest, especially with the new cars that are coming out, the EVs that are coming out. And I think that there is a place for them, just like, a Volkswagen Beetle. There's a place for that. It's not something that I would want to take
and
cross
the
country.
promises from some manufacturers to be total electric by, Mercedes is advertising by 2030, they're going to be totally electric.
So they're
GM
going to
said
throw
30,
away
35.
all of the gasoline, the ICE engine business.
I can't imagine, but
I can't either.
I would assume so. GM said they're going to be all electric by 2035, but they just spent $1 billion building a new internal combustion engine plant for a new V8 platform they're coming out with.
And Stellantis has come out with a brand new inline 6-cylinder.
It's
that-
going to be a beast. That's going to be a stump puller.
Yeah, it was just lots of torque.
All right, time now for this week in auto history, and Conrad has that
You go,
feature
Conrad.
that we have on this kind of
So
disjointed show today because of the internet issues.
in 1929, General Motors acquired 80% of German auto manufacturer Adam Opel for just under $26 million. And I would imagine it's worth substantially more today. But, Opel never really became a hit here in the States when Opels were being sold as Opels here in the States.
I remember that little sports car.
Yeah,
That's the old,
Corvette.
baby vet.
yeah,
Yeah, they were all sold through Buick dealerships.
right.
Yeah.
Was it a Cadet
Well, there was an Opel Kadett, which was their little sedan.
sedan? Mhm.
And then they
Square body
And then they
type.
had the kind of a Corvette look like the Opel GT,
Those are
it.
cool cars.
which was actually a very cool little car.
Two-seater.
But that was 1929 when GM bought Opel. In 1961, Jaguar cars introduced the XKE, or commonly known as the E-Type, at the Geneva
That's
Auto
pretty.
Show.
Pretty.
The E-Type, my opinion, is one of the most beautiful cars ever made. And it was the successor to the C and D-Type Jag. Even Enzo Ferrari said that was one of the most beautiful cars ever made. So me and Enzo, we're like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you are.
You are.
We both like pasta. The first car to carry the Porsche family name was introduced at the 19th International Automobile Show in Switzerland in 1949. And this is, it ended up becoming the Porsche 956.
Looks like a spider.
But that was the original Porsche. In 1958, Plastone Company Incorporated registered Turtle Wax hard shell finish auto polish.
That's a turtle of a vehicle there.
And that would be okay. So we'll
Well,
okay.
Keep going.
We're
Good.
moving along
Yep.
here. Not well. So in 2005, John DeLorean, the American automobile engineer, he died this week at the age of 80 in Summit, New Jersey, from a stroke. After starting the DeLorean Motor Company, John DeLorean was the head of Pontiac. In my opinion, Pontiac's heyday. He led.
Well, he started the heyday.
Yeah, he led the introduction of the GTO, the Firebird, the Grand Prix, some really epic vehicles in Pontiac history, and then moved within General Motors over to Chevrolet, and then laid an egg called the Vega, and then left General Motors to start his own company, which was DeLorean Motor Cars. And really, to me, the thing that made that car most famous was, without a doubt, the movie.
Yes.
And then previous picture to this, in 1990, Ford introduced the Ford Explorer to the public, one of the first generations of sport utility vehicles released by the Big Three in the early 90s. The Ford Explorer became one of the Ford's best-selling models almost immediately. So,
How did those pictures get out of order?
I have no idea. I send them in order, and I send them in order based on how I build my notes. And
Yeah, Mars. What happened?
Brown water.
no, but yeah,
You were cutting grass and decided to do the videos while you're at the beach.
No,
I
he
did,
decided-
did the videos before that.
He decided to smoke the St. Augustine.
he was doing shots while he was.
He
loading
says I'm
the
going to cut
pictures.
grass. It's not what we think.
You know, another thing in 1968, construction started on the north tunnel of the Eisenhower Memorial Tunnel on Interstate 70 in Colorado. You ever been through that?
I am not.
So as you go, I imagine Katie has, as you go west out of Colorado on I-70, you climb up this huge mountain, and then you go through this tunnel. It's probably about 1.5 miles long, and it's the highest vehicular tunnel in the world, and it was, it's at 11,000 feet.
That's not the car that came out of it.
That's the Ford Explorer.
Yeah, go back to that.
But again, 4 months after it opened, over 1 million vehicles had passed through the Eisenhower Tunnel. So again, the Ford Explorer became one of Ford's most popular vehicles, and then got banged by a bunch of recalls for some tire
What
issues.
is the deal with Ford and the recalls?
Good question. I don't know. It's
And they had somebody got fired there, and they brought somebody else in to figure out what in the world is going on. But car manufacturers don't manufacture cars; they assemble cars,
Correct.
and they get all of these different parts
components
from suppliers
everywhere.
everywhere. Do they not engineer the parts correctly?
The I can speak for General Motors. They spec out, here's this component we want. Can you make this widget for us? Here are the specifications for it that we need it to meet.
Here's the alternator that we need.
Right.
This is what we need it to do.
So the vendor is going, okay, I can build that for $93. Well, there's another vendor down the street. I can build it for $92, and all of a sudden it becomes who can build it the cheapest, and that to me is part of the problem. Is this is all necessarily about cost savings, not about quality,
Reliability.
So when they worry about saving $1 per car times 1 million vehicles, that's big savings. But how much does it cost to recall
it and fix it.
It's way more than $1 million to recall it after you've built it. So,
Just speaking of recalls and suppliers, NASCAR just went through this with one of their teams where they put a vent on the hood of a car. They had to modify it, adapt it to the hood of the car.
Let's
They
go.
tested
Got all
it.
the Hendrick guys suspended.
They tested it to see if it worked. They didn't qualify with it. They didn't race with it, but they got hundreds of thousands of dollars of fine.
$400,000.
Multiple crew chiefs were kicked off for several weeks.
Four crew chiefs were.
But if they didn't
suspended
run
for
it,
4 weeks.
That's the rules of
Doesn't
NASCAR
matter.
because it's NASCAR's rules. But it's a single source supplier.
Right.
NASCAR has single source suppliers. Like Conrad builds this widget for NASCAR. He
The
builds
hood.
builds it
Yeah,
for all
whatever
of
it
them.
is. Yeah.
So he is a single source supplier.
And if
for
I do
NASCAR
something wrong, you still got to use it.
And you
And
can't
that's
modify
what's
it.
going on with a lot of these recalls is, that vendor builds that part to meet that spec, but they kind of work the edges of it to drive the price down and then provide it to whoever that manufacturer is. And then that part goes through a failure process or a failure frequency, and it's that failure frequency that gets reported to NHTSA, and when it exceeds a certain amount, that's when it becomes a recall.
what a waste of time, money, and effort.
Yeah.
And
They
it's a
could
black eye.
They could just build the quality of a car. It's going to drive the price up a little bit, but would you be willing to pay an
Yes.
extra 10% for a vehicle is going to go 300,000 miles without failure.
How does Toyota manage to build cars that rarely get recalled?
Mm-hmm. Well, they have, everybody has recalls.
I said rarely,
but not in the volume that you see.
Ford,
at Ford
GM, and all,
Right.
I don't understand.
Well, and some of that may be Toyota may be building more of their own components. I don't know that for a fact, but I know they also have a better base of vendors that are delivering parts. Denso being a huge vendor to Toyota, but they're also a vendor to General Motors, and they're also a vendor to Ford.
And they're also an aftermarket supplier.
Right. So,
all right, some of the stories making automotive news headlines this week. Of course, interest rates on everybody's mind these days. Federal Reserve on Wednesday raised interest rates by 0.25 percentage point, but indicated it was on the verge of pausing further increases in borrowing costs amid recent turmoil in financial markets spurred by the collapse of 2 U.S. banks. The Fed, their actions raised the prospect of higher borrowing costs for new and used vehicles and other forms of credit, notably mortgages. Average new vehicle interest rate rose 2.6 percentage points to 7% between February 2022 and February 2023, as the Fed increased its benchmark target 4.5 percentage points during that time, according to Edmunds. A potential light at the end of the tunnel for car shoppers could come in the form of financial incentives from auto manufacturers as inventory continues to build up and vehicles sit longer on dealer lots. Shoppers can't expect the doorbuster bargains they saw pre-pandemic, but consumers with good credit who do their research might find more favorable financing options heading into the summer season. So stand by, as it were.
For you.
And as inventories increase, manufacturers want those off the lot so they can keep production running. So that's why
and speaking of production of the Chevrolet Camaro sports car will end after the 2024 model year. Last sixth generation Camaro which debuted as a 2016 model, will leave GM's Lansing Grand River assembly plant in January, according to Chevrolet. There was no immediate plan to replace the Camaro, though the brand hinted at future possibility. They are not going to get rid of the Camaro. It's going to be put on pause. There's no market for that car right now.
Well, that's what happened between 2002 and 2010.
Yeah,
the Camaro was put on pause, and for all of those guys with mullets, they became men of pause.
Oh.
Automotive News has reported that a similar-sized electric vehicle, though not necessarily an electric Camaro, is expected to be built at the Lansing plant in 2026. The plant also builds the Cadillac CT4 and CT5 sedans.
Sweet.
Yeah. And Ford Motor Company expects its electric vehicle business to lose $3 billion this year, even as it forecasts increased profits on its internal combustion and commercial vehicle operations.
Yeah, let's not worry about where we're making profits. Let's really focus on where we're losing our fanny.
The automaker on Thursday projected the losses from its EV unit called Model E will increase nearly 50% in 2023 from $2.1 billion last year, as it continues to invest in boosting production and developing next-generation products on a dedicated EV platform.
Tune in next week; it'll be $5 billion.
Yeah, and boy, I've got a story on a scratched EV battery that you are not going to believe, because insurance companies apparently are now saying,
We're not gonna cover that.
Yeah, so you get in a wreck, you scratch the battery, and apparently it's a big deal if you scratch the battery. They have to replace the entire battery pack because in certain model Tesla, that battery pack is integral to the structure of the car.
Oh, wow.
So they have to replace the whole friggin' car. It's like, oh, you're kidding me.
A Unibat.
Yeah. So that's a story that I will send.
That's a BUV.
Yeah. Battery utility vehicle.
Okay. Above. So above. All right. Time now for a quick break on the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Back after this.
Tailpipes and Tacos, Houston's premier car cruise-in returns Saturday, April 15th to the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m. Bring your Hot Rod Classic, Resto Mod, or any other vehicle you'd like to show and compete for one of 3 highly coveted Chili Pepper trophies. This April 15th kickoff event is one you'll want to put on your calendar, because 100% of the money you donate for the free tacos will be given to God's Garage. You heard right. Free tacos. Whatever you decide to give, all of it will be given to God's Garage and matched by Lupi Tortilla. God's Garage gifts vehicles to single mothers, widows, and wives of deployed military in the greater Houston area. In fact, the Garage will gift a vehicle to a mom in need at this special event. Be sure to attend the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Saturday, April 15th, 8 to 11 a.m. at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Free breakfast tacos for any donation to God's Garage. It'll make your heart and your belly feel good. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Real Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Real Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InRealTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Real Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. It's the In Real Time Car Talk Show coming up. Alex Nizick with Consumer Reports joins us to answer 101 things you didn't know to ask about EVs. Kind of on an EV kick here by mistake today. Jeff has the Soapbox Derby, where, what, why, about the event. Conrad has the racing calendar and the car clinic. We also have the stories making automotive news headlines this week. It's all straight ahead on this edition of the In Real Time Car Talk Show. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we apologize for all of the, it's a combination of audio and video problems. Thanks a lot, Xfinity.
Internet.
Xfinity.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all Xfinity. That I'm paying more money for the internet
Less
line
service.
and less service.
But you saw the guy yesterday.
The audio sounds good.
Does it?
Yes.
Well,
Now
that they've farted around with it all morning long. Jeez.
You allowed to say fart?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not one of the 7 dirty words.
Well, all those 7 dirty words George Carlin talked about are now on television and radio.
Exactly.
They are. All right. So to Consumer Reports. His name is Alex Nizick. Alex, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. Thanks. And again, our apologies.
Great.
Apologies for not having video available so we
No
can
problem.
see you.
I feel your pain. We have internet problems here all the time.
But thanks for dressing up for us.
Yeah, exactly. You can go and put your bathrobe back on. We're all good.
Please.
Yeah.
That's right. I think I might.
So, Alex, let's talk about EVs. What I guess,
Sure.
in your opinion, is the top of the 101 things that we didn't know to ask about EVs?
Yeah. So, when you think about electric vehicles, the kind of most common thing that people are used to thinking about is how they get less range, right? You're worried about not being able to go far enough. 250 miles sounds like not enough. I need the 500 miles that my gas car can go. And that kind of used to be the case, but really what we're starting to see now is that it's not so much range anxiety, it's charging anxiety.
Yes.
So
I can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we experience it all the time. I mean, the fact of the matter is, once you kind of get comfortable with the range that the EV that maybe you bought, can do, the 250 miles, you get an understanding of how far you can go, how often you need to charge it, all these things, right? You can kind of adapt to that. But the real wild card is if you need to take it on a long trip and you all of a sudden show up at a charger and it's broken, or it takes you a half an hour to wait in line to even be able to start charging it in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
You have to wait, maybe 30, 40 minutes, something like that. So really what we're seeing is a shift from range anxiety to charging anxiety. And in my experience, it totally makes sense. We did a national survey here at Consumer Reports, and that actually came through in the data. So we had over 60% of people that were kind of on the fence about EVs. They weren't totally sure about them. They said that charging logistics was the main thing stopping them from, going down that path. And then range was pretty close. It was at 55%, but still charging was the most, challenging thing to get into an EV.
Well, it's actually not surprising and goes hand in hand with what I have talked about on this program for, a couple of years since I've been reviewing new cars that are EVs. And, mine is the range anxiety. Now, here at my house, I don't own an EV, but I just have 110 volt outlet here. And we were just talking about it in the last hour of the show. For me personally, what worked when I had the Chevy Bolt a few weeks ago was the fact that I plugged it in here at the house, let it charge all night long, drove 30 miles to work, got to work, plugged it in. By the time I got off work on my 9-hour shift, then I would bring it home, and that worked for me. And I felt a lot more comfortable with that kind of thing. And I imagine that your research has found that true.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because as much of a barrier and as inconvenient as charging can be when you take it on a long trip, it's also in EVs, one of its greatest benefits is that you can just charge it at home, right? If you, even if you're using kind of the 110 outlet like you mentioned, or if you take it a step further and you get the level 2 charger installed at your house, if you live in a house where you can make that change, you just come home, you can put it in the garage, you can charge it, and then overnight, you start with a fresh full battery the next day. So, not having to visit the gas station so frequently or any of these things. And so, it's one of its biggest strengths at the same time is a weakness.
What are some of the things that you found surprising in your survey? So I think surprising to me, or it shouldn't be that surprising actually, but you think about EVs as, saving the planet, that type of thing, right? Like less emissions, more green, all those types of buzzwords. But what really shows through is that regardless of where you kind of stand on that whole spectrum of issues, is that everybody can kind of rally around the fact that they tend to cost less. So a lot of people in the survey are really interested in the money saving aspect of it. It's usually less expensive to charge these cars. I don't know what the electricity rates are where you guys are, but here in Connecticut, it's a little iffy because our electricity rates are one of the highest in the country, which is really annoying. Somehow that's the case. But so here it's kind of give and take whether it's going to be cheaper. But in the vast majority of places in the country, it's cheaper to charge your car than it is to fill it with gas. So there's that aspect. You get to save money just kind of day to day in that way. And then the maintenance side of things, right? They're generally simpler in terms of maintenance. You don't have to do oil changes and replace engine air filters and belts and all these things. So regardless of where you stand, whether you care about the emissions side of things, generally it can save you money. And I think everybody can kind of get on board with that. Well, let's get back to the cheaper cost overall, because doesn't it really kind of depend on the amount of money that you pay for the EV? Because you can go out and buy a $200,000 EV. The electricity rate isn't going to change between that car and a Chevy Bolt.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is a huge factor. And EVs, on average, are way more expensive than their kind of comparable gas cars. So that's a huge thing. If you're going to go, you're considering a Toyota Corolla hybrid, for example. We did this kind of analysis not too long ago. So if you're interested in a Toyota Corolla hybrid, somewhere in the $20,000 range or $25,000, depending on which one you get. Let's say you want to consider the next cheapest EV, which is a Nissan Leaf. And, depending on where you are, you might get different incentives and the electricity costs and all the thing. But the EV, the Nissan Leaf, costs so much more to buy up front that almost everywhere in the country, regardless of electricity costs, it's going to take way too long, if ever, for that, EV to pay for itself in terms of savings. So you're better off, if you just want to save money, you're better off just getting the Corolla hybrid, and you're probably going to have a pretty similar driving experience anyway. So,
well, from what I've seen with new cars is the fact that all of the new cars have really increased dramatically since the pandemic in basic cost of the car to buy. And now some of the EVs that you can get into are really cost competitive with many of the gasoline powered vehicles. You find that true?
It can depend on what you're interested in and the availability of those cars, right? I mean, so at Consumer Reports, we buy all of the test cars. It's kind of something that we, pride ourselves on, and is a little different than what maybe some of the other testing organizations do. So we go out and buy all the cars like you would, or any of us would normally. So if it's kind of like a desirable vehicle, there aren't a ton out there, we're still seeing, markups on these vehicles. So a regular gas car, I mean, we just bought our Honda Pilot for testing not too long ago, and even that, I couldn't get it without a $5,000 markup from dealers. So I think some of those price increases on some of those models are bringing them closer to EVs, because EVs can be a little bit harder of a sell depending on the model. I mean, there is a lot of people who are waiting in line for them depending on what it is, the Tesla Cybertruck maybe. But yeah, so that increase on some of those models is definitely leveling the playing field a little bit. But I do think it is still possible to kind of shop in some of those more niche areas. Sedans, believe it or not, are kind of a niche now. So if you're interested in that, you can usually find it for less.
Alex, so do you think the manufacturers are going to help this charging anxiety as they are investing in infrastructure for charging stations? Tesla's putting up these huge charging stations around the country, and I think GM has talked about it as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, everybody seems to be taking their own approach, right? I mean, recently, Mercedes-Benz, I think back in January, kind of aligned with the CES show in Vegas. They mentioned, they kind of announced that they're going to expand their charging network, build their own Mercedes-branded charging stations, and thankfully they'll be accessible by non-Mercedes vehicles. So you definitely see a lot of manufacturers. Say again? I'm sorry.
For a fee, it ain't going to be cheap. It's not going to be free.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And, if you show up with your Mercedes model, it'll probably be, give you some benefits as opposed to showing up with something else. So
you said
you'll be incentivized to. Yep.
I was going to say, the Consumer Reports, they buy all the vehicles. What happens to those vehicles? Do they do from cradle to grave? I mean, at the end of it, do they crash test them? Do they resell them? What happens?
Yeah, sorry, you're cutting out a little bit, but I believe the question was what we do at Consumer Reports with all the cars.
Right, but what happens to them at the end when you're done?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we buy them, and before we do any formal testing and instrumented testing or anything like that, we put about 2,000 miles on them. So, the handful of testers, myself included, we just drive them around and kind of live with them for a couple weeks or however much time it takes us to get up to that 2,000 miles. If it's something like our new Nissan Z that we just got, those 2,000 miles will probably come a lot quicker than something else. But,
sure.
So we do that. We drive them for a bit. We get used to them. And then we do our full testing, which maybe takes a month or two, depending on what we're doing. And then we just keep them for about a year or two, depending on how, what the model is. And if we need to keep it longer, that's okay. But we just kind of have a fleet of roughly 50 vehicles at any given time. People are driving with them, living with them. If anything comes up or is discovered kind of post-testing, we can use it to write something or update our tests, whatever it is. We also keep them because, Consumer Reports has some, I'll say, not pull, but influence on the industry, right? So if we say something about a vehicle that might be surprising or controversial and an automaker wants to contact us about it and get more details or have us retest something, we have the vehicle on hand so that we can do that. So that's that kind of 2-year process maybe. And then after the fact, we auction them off, we sell them. So first, employees kind of get their first say at a vehicle if they're interested in it. And then after that, we just send them generally to a local auction.
So is it kind of like the Hertz used car auction where, we've torn the hell out of the car for 100,000 miles, and now we're going to pawn it off on some unsuspecting doofus out there?
Oh, that's a good question.
I doubt he would phrase it that
see,
way,
how do
like doofus.
Yeah,
There's a doofus born every minute.
So we probably end up selling them with anywhere from 20 to 25,000 miles on them, and honestly, our testing isn't that destructive in any way. I mean, there might be some scrapes on the bumper because we smacked into some cones doing our avoidance maneuver testing, or the tires might be a little chopped up because somebody had some fun on the track or whatever. But generally, they're in pretty good shape. So we sell them for a decent discount, though. So
20,000 miles. 20,000 miles on that Dodge Hellcat. Mm-hmm. Hey, why you got those new tires on the back and the used ones on the front?
That was done in the first 2 weeks.
Well, I'll tell you, we just sold our C8 Corvette, which I miss dearly. But the new owner who just bought that car, got it with a fresh set of tires because we finished those off pretty quickly.
Is what we used to call you tow it up. It got all tore up out there. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
So one of the things that I did want to ask you, if I just Google Consumer Reports, it takes me to the page that wants money. But this information, I also found that it doesn't cost me anything if I don't want to become a member of Consumer Reports, which at one time I was actually. But you can get this information on your website.
Right.
For free.
Yeah. There's it's a little bit of a difficult thing to decide what goes behind the paywall and what's free. I mean, we can't make everything behind the paywall, because then you might come to the site and you not really understand what you're going to get if you were to become a member. So plus there's other things that we feel are important enough or big enough a discovery that we want to make it publicly available regardless of the price. So it's a little bit of a give and take with that.
Well, I love Consumer Reports, and you guys do other things other than cars, clearly. But our focus is on cars, and you always have some interesting articles up there on cars and the way that you test cars. And this is a great article if you're interested in maybe learning more about electric cars. It's called Electric Cars 101, the answers to all your EV questions. And I don't see your name on the article, but I'm sure that you had a lot to do with it.
Oh yeah. I'm on the testing side, so I'm involved with testing all the cars, and EVs have become a huge part of what we do now, just because that's where the market is going, one way or the other. So a lot of our new cars, I mean, probably half of our garage right now is electric vehicles. So we've been testing them for a long time, since the Leaf and the first Model S came out, but now, we're all very, very intimate with the EVs and understand them pretty well. So
how have you
I definitely had a hand in that.
How have you modified the garage to accept all of the charging stations that you have to have?
Extension cords.
Great question. We have a lot of chargers, inside, outside. I mean, we probably have, 15 charging stalls, I would say.
Yep.
With cars hooked up to them at any given time. So,
do you let the general public hook up?
No, our facility is behind a gate at this point. I think before my time, it used to be more open, but people start to get weird when they figure out where you are. So we had to rope off the front gate.
Us too.
Yeah. We're in this. Yes, we're in the same. But ours is a little bit different. Ours is more along the lines of hate.
They're coming to our weirdness.
That's
more
right.
like incarceration.
Incarceration. There you go. Well,
oh boy.
Anyway, it's a great article, and we certainly love having you guys on the air with us, and we like to check in with you frequently. So let's talk again, and so next time we can actually see you. Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I will, take the robe off for next time.
Have you tested any Wi-Fi extenders lately?
Yeah, Wi-Fi extenders. We're looking for that.
That's in the refrigerator category.
That's exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. The car side is totally separate, so I can't tell you anything about a refrigerator or a Wi-Fi extender. So
just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Alex, again, thank you so much, and tell all of our friends up there we said hi, and we look forward to chatting with you guys again soon.
Will do. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you. Alex Nizick, and he is with Consumer Reports up in Connecticut.
You notice one theme that I've noticed with these folks they're all young. They're all in their 30s.
Everybody is young, Jeff.
Well, yeah,
compared to us.
That's true. Hell, Susan's even young, right?
Yeah, well, not so much as she limps around here these days.
Well, we do too.
Well, there's that. Isn't that right, Conrad?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Time now to move on. The N-Will Time race card, sponsored by Texas Nostalgia Modified Production. And,
very cool.
racing is underway everywhere.
Yep. So this weekend, the Arizona Nationals, NHRA, is at Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. And I think it's Chandler, which is south of Phoenix. And then March 20th, they'll be at Pomona at the Winter Nationals. NASCAR is in Austin today at Circuit of the Americas. And Jordan Taylor, the IMSA race car driver, he qualified number 10, which is kind of cool because he's driving Chase Elliott's car, the number 9 car. And Chevrolet is going to enter a Camaro, what they're calling a GT4 Camaro, in the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year, and Jordan Taylor is going to be one of the drivers. And it is an evolution of the NASCAR platform. So, he's getting some time behind the wheel.
So by stopping the production and not building the Camaro anymore,
that's cool racing.
Think about this. All of those Xfinity cars, all of the NASCARs, all of the racing, everything is going to have to change because they're not going to be building Camaros.
They're all going to go to an electric Chevy Bolt. And the Daytona 500 is now going to be the Daytona 235.
And everybody's going to have the pucker factor to finish the race.
You're looking at me like I'm telling you.
They're going to have a picture of Buzz on the hood.
Also, this weekend, the Texas Nostalgia drag races are going to be at the Ennis Motorplex.
Texas Nostalgia Modified Production.
They're going to be
which is a sponsor. Thank you very much.
They're going to be at Texas Motorplex in Ennis with 53 funny cars, 30 fuel altereds, a bunch of front-engine dragsters, and then the modified production cars.
Funny car chaos.
Funny car chaos.
Very cool. All right.
So, and then also NASCAR is on the April 4th. They'll be at Richmond with the look-back cars or the nostalgia paint jobs on the cars. Then they'll be at Bristol on the 9th, Martinsville on the 16th. So they're going back to Martinsville on April the 23rd. They'll be at Talladega. Next weekend, Formula One will be at Azerbaijan. Can you spell that?
Yeah. Next.
And then on May 7th, they'll be at Miami for the return of the Miami Grand Prix.
Remember last
year, the Miami Grand Prix, they had all of the water painted on the concrete, and people pretending they were on a boat in the middle of the weirdest
That's what they do
thing.
for fun in Formula One.
And then IMSA is at Long Beach on April 15th and at Laguna Seca on May 14th. Indy cars will be on April 2nd at Fort Worth, Texas. So that'll be, it's again some racing close
Coda's
by.
this weekend.
Circuit of the Americas for NASCAR this weekend. And too bad we couldn't hold on to them on the internet, but again, Texas Mile is going on this weekend in Beeville at the airport.
Cool.
The Beeville Intergalactic Airport.
Intergalactic Airport.
In Beeville.
Fast airport.
Yeah. Time now for Jeff's Dictionary on the Soapbox Derby.
You go.
As long as I've been a kid, I've heard of the Soapbox Derby. I've never attended it. Is it in Indiana?
No.
It's not.
No.
Oh, well, Ohio?
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
Here we go.
was
So
close.
Soapbox Derby facts about the All-American race. How did the
Surprised they haven't
Soapbox
put
Derby
electric
start?
engines in them yet.
The Soapbox Derby takes place Saturday,
How would
July
you know?
25th at Derby Downs in Akron. The race week begins Monday, July 20th, and here's some things you need to know. Soapbox Derby got its start in the depths of the Great Depression. The story of a racer and a trip to Ohio. In 1933, a photographer... what's going on? In 1933, Myron Scott was photographing three boys, much like Conrad does, each with a crate-like frame fixed to baby buggy wheels rolling down a bumpy hill
It's like the
in
Little
Dayton.
Rascals.
Scott invited the boys to come back a week later and bring their friends. 19 kids came back to race. Scott also has another claim to fame. What is it? He coined the name of a car. Does anybody know? He coined the name of the car Corvette. That's his claim to fame.
Huh.
There are the driver specs. There's 3 different divisions for ages 7 to 13. The cars can be, the drivers can be 5 feet 3 inches tall and weigh 125 pounds.
Oh, Jeff, you could drive.
I could drive. The super stock division is for ages 9 to 18, and the racers can be 6 feet tall, 150 pounds. And the masters division is for racers of 10 to 20 years old, and the racers can be 6 feet tall and 160 pounds. The car specs, there's 3 different cars. The 70 pounds is for the stock cars, 73 pounds is for the super stock, and 88 pounds is for the master class. The maximum combined weight of a driver in a car, including wheels, for the stock is 200 pounds. For the super stock is 240 pounds, and the master class, you cannot exceed 255 pounds.
Is that debatable?
No, 255 is it. The weight can be added to receive the maximum weight for the specs. The track conditions or the track specifications, let's start with the bridge. The bridge is 35 feet, 7 inches past the former finish line, which was moved to lengthen the track to 989 feet. 4 inches. Don't forget the 4 inches. It's very important. To obtain the propulsion, the grade decline
Important to a lot of people.
is separated into 3 stages. Yes, it is. That's why I said don't forget it.
Make
It's very
Don
important.
proud.
The first 53.75 feet carry a 16% grade. It's a drop rate of 16 feet per every 100 feet. The next is a 6% grade drop for the next 530 feet and a 2% drop for the remaining 405
It's like
feet.
Don going through high school with grade drops.
Yeah.
It's the hardest 7 years of his life.
There you go. It
Never
was
had to
8th
worry
grade.
about- we never had to worry about grade drops because there were no grades to drop.
Oh, boy. Creative racers. The cars must be built to specific specifications. You can buy plans for one of these from anywhere from $200 to $600 plus, depending on what you want to do.
For the
just
plan?
the plans, just for the specs, the plans, yes.
Are they made out of balsa wood?
No, there's different types. Depending on the plans and depending on what you want to do, there's different variations of what to build it out of.
But you had to use their axles and tires and wheels.
That's all part of the rule,
Right.
rules and regs. But this does not eliminate a bit of creativity and ingenuity. In Popular Mechanics article in 1936, Charles Kettering, famed inventor and vice president of research for General Motors.
Interesting, because he's going to be in my next story.
There you go. Wrote that a racer put talcum powder on the rubber tires on a hot day so that it wouldn't stick to the ground. So that's, Rubbins racing. A couple of honorable mentions and we're done. The speed record was held by Tommy Fisher, who covered the track at 26.30 seconds.
I beat the hell out of him.
Did you?
Yeah,
Tommy
took him
Fisher?
out of that car and just whipped him up back in the day.
Rubbins racing. And
I thought Tommy Fisher was a chess pro,
No.
chess master.
No.
Carrie,
That was his brother, Bobby Fischer.
are you done? Okay.
No.
Karen Teen of Pennsylvania won it in 1975. She was the first young lady to win it. Now, in the 50s and 60s, they had as many as 50,000 people watching this race. That's more than a NASCAR race gets today.
Well, there is that.
There is that. There you go. And everything you need to know about the Kentucky Derby, the Soapbox Derby.
All right. Thank you very much. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available 24/7 through the iHeartRadio app. Just look for In-Wheel Time Car Talk. We also video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. No thanks to Xfinity. Podcasts are at your fingertips on over a dozen of the most popular podcast outlets. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show continues right after this break. Stay with us.
Tailpipes and Tacos, Houston's premier car cruise-in returns Saturday, April 15th to the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m. Bring your hot rod, classic, resto mod, or any other vehicle you'd like to show and compete for one of 3 highly coveted chili pepper trophies. This April 15th kickoff event is one you'll want to put on your calendar because 100% of the money you donate for the free tacos will be given to God's Garage. You heard right. Free tacos. Whatever you decide to give, all of it will be given to God's Garage and matched by Lupi Tortilla. God's Garage gifts vehicles to single mothers, widows, and wives of deployed military in the greater Houston area. In fact, the garage will gift a vehicle to a mom in need at this special event. Be sure to attend the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Saturday, April 15th, 8 to 11 a.m. at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Free breakfast tacos for any donation to God's Garage. It'll make your heart and your belly feel good. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Wheel Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InWheelTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Wheel Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel. Live from the Sugar Shack in Sugar Land, Texas, it's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Coming up, Alec Udell on his racing career and the Sebring and Daytona experience firsthand. Conrad will have the In Wheel Time Car Clinic, and I'll bring you this week's auto news. Howdy, along with Mike out of this world, Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks so much for joining us today. Let's go right to Alec. Alec Udell, it's been a while since we talked to you. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Doing well. Good to hear from you, Don. How are things?
Yeah, very well, thank you. So are you not racing this weekend?
Not this weekend. Yeah, I get an off weekend.
Wow, of all of the racing that's going on, you have this is the weekend that you're off. So what is your next race?
All right, so our next race is at Long Beach Grand Prix here in about 3 weeks in Long Beach, California, so on the IndyCar weekend. And
what kind of car are you driving?
I'll be racing one of the new 992 Porsche GT3Rs.
And how much experience do you have in that car?
So now I have the two the two long races from Daytona and Sebring under my belt in this new GT3R. The Daytona race was actually the first race for the 992 GT3R, which was awesome. So we had, it wasn't so awesome, the result, but it was cool to be the part of kind of the rollout process of this new platform and be kind of going through all of the development and just the kind of coming together with the series to find the right balance for the car. So that's been a cool process.
Did you have to learn how to speak German?
Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. So
you didn't have to learn; he already knew. Now, now bear with me on this. Isn't this the one that they changed from a rear-engine vehicle to a mid-engine? So basically, they put the engine in front of the transaxle.
Not quite. What they've done is they've moved the orientation of the shift compressor for the pneumatic gearbox, and it's basically shifted the engine forward. The RSR, which is kind of like the next step up from the GT3R, that runs in like Le Mans. That car is mid-engine, but this car is still a rear engine. But it's like similar to how maybe the AMG GT is like a front mid-engine. It's like a rear mid-engine almost. So it's far forward. When you take the bonnet off the rear of the car, the engine cover, the engine sits about that much farther forward than the old car. So they keep moving that engine, more towards the center of the car. But the biggest difference with this car is just it's everything on it is so easy to change. The pieces are all just clips for the body work, and everything comes off the car. And it's very wide, it's very low. There's a lot more downforce that's made underneath the car with a much more effective diffuser. So it makes it a lot easier to like fight with when you're driving behind other cars, and you take the air off the nose of the car.
And you podiumed Sebring?
Yeah.
Very
We finished.
good.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was
Thank you.
That was pretty awesome. It was actually kind of fun to watch the TV coverage, and I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
Yeah. So I did a triple stint in the middle of the race just because that's how it lined up with kind of the strategy that we needed. And I think from my stint, we went from like 18th to leading the race, which was a pretty cool, pretty cool process. Just through passing cars, through consistent time, and then good strategy from the engineers on the team with Kelly Moss and Riley.
How many cylinders? What kind of an engine is it? Is it a flat? Is it a horizontally opposed engine? How many cubic inches or centimeters is it?
It's a 4.2 liter, which they don't make in any of the road going cars. So it's a 4 liter that's been beefed up a bit. I think this is the first 4.2 liter in one of the 911s that's like essentially factory purchased, and it's quoted at 560 horsepower. That it runs at for the BOP for the series.
But if you told us the truth, you'd have to kill us, right?
Well, I'm not. They don't tell me the truth, so
How many?
they just said get in and drive it.
How many cylinders is it? 4 or 6?
It's a six.
A 6, a flat six.
Yep.
And
correct.
and what's the red line on the RPMs?
It is, so that can change. That's part of BOP, but it is 9,200.
So it's a
Holy
Singer
cow.
sewing machine, 9,200 RPM.
Yeah.
And what?
It's howling.
And how many speeds is the transmission?
It's a six speed pneumatic, electronically actuated pneumatic gearbox.
How many in the actual race? Let's pick. Is it Sebring that you
Just finished on the podium.
Yeah. So at Sebring, what gears do you mainly use? Is it 4, 5, and 6?
You use 1st through 6 at Sebring.
Oh my gosh, the whole shebang, everything.
Yeah. You barely get into 6th at the end of the back straightaway, and if there's a big headwind, you barely make it, but you're in it for a few seconds before you brake for 17.
So in 6th gear, going into that thing, at let's just say,
Well, you won't be a red line at 6.
No.
You'll be up there somewhere.
Yeah. So where will it be in the RPM up there?
6th gear at the end of the back straightaway, we're like probably right around 6,500 to 6,800. I'm not exactly sure because I'm looking at what's coming towards me.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah.
Well, I know that all of that is recorded, and I'm sure that they've got every detail of every second of the race.
Totally.
So with the GT3R's success at Sebring, because there were so many of them kind of finished in the top 10, are you expecting an adjustment in the BOP?
No. So the way the BOP works is they look at the quickest overall lap time and then the quickest 10% laps basically, and then 20% to see where each car stacks up. I'd say based on our analysis from the team, we are right kind of dead center of all the cars. We're not like the worst, we're not the best. So I think if anything, we'll probably stay where we were at.
So is that somewhat intentional on the driver's part? Is there somebody in your ear giving you that information, or do you have data on the dash that's giving you GPS lap times?
we do have lap times, but when you're in the race, you're not really concerned about that, especially when you have an opportunity to go and win the race.
Get in front of somebody.
So you're just pushing really as hard as you can. The thing that worked out well for us, Sebring's such like a dogfight of a race, just because the track's so difficult. There's like when it becomes nighttime, it's really hard to see. There's not many lights around the track. And so we really just kept our nose clean and stayed out of trouble. There's a couple of cars that were, I'd say, maybe a bit quicker overall pace, like outright pace, but they got into trouble. They got impatient. They went for a pass that turned into contact. They got penalties. And so for us, it was really just playing to the strengths of, we knew the car was very consistent over a stint, so we could keep the same lap time pretty consistently. But we weren't maybe the outright quickest car on the racetrack. We were probably about 5/10 off of the fastest lap time. And so we were just kind of balancing between, okay, we just need to make sure that we preserve the car to the end of the race so we have something to fight with, and make sure that we minimize any sort of penalty or any sort of, something that would set us back in the race.
So who put up the 2027?
Both myself and Julian Andlauer, the Porsche factory driver, we both did 2027 in the car.
And the top three drivers then at the end of the race on the last lap took each other out. That's the right? Yeah.
Well, I was at the GTP level.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's been like the race there was just, like I said, a dogfight, I think is the best way to put it. And people are fighting super hard at like hour 5, hour 6, hour 7 in the race. And it's like, there's so much time left that if you damage the nose or you take a dive plane off and you lose a tenth a lap every lap, well, that's, over 100 laps, that's going to be 10 seconds. And so it's just really preserving the car and making sure that you have something really nice to fight with at the end of the race.
And very good for you, because with a Porsche factory driver on your team sharing a seat with you, you've got eyes from the Porsche factory on your production as well and your performance. So,
kudos
to open more opportunities
Absolutely.
for you in the future. Congratulations.
Totally. Yeah, and for me, it's just all about, I know that I don't put that pressure on myself when I'm in the car. It's more just focusing on, okay, getting the most out of that particular stint that I'm in. And sometimes you just get stuck behind other cars, and the GT3 cars, like I was saying a bit earlier, they're very aero dependent. And so when you get stuck behind someone, you get the wake, similar to like what you see in F1 or other forms of high downforce racing. It's really hard to make a pass because it's just hard to follow closely behind that car. So Porsche's done a really nice job in making this car easier to deal with in traffic, which allows us to fight a little bit harder, but there still is an element of that.
Now, you'd said earlier about this is actually a car that you somewhat buy from Porsche and then turn into your race car?
Yeah, so there's a very short list of people that were able to purchase this GT3R for this year, but all the GT3 homologated race cars are all built by the manufacturer and then delivered to teams to go racing.
Okay.
So any manufacturer that's in GT3 racing, they have to go through a homologation process with the FIA to build this GT3 spec race car, and then the teams will buy them directly from the manufacturers. And that's what, if you've heard the term customer racing, that's essentially what that is.
And so once they get into that aspect of it, the factory, do they continue to supply support to you?
Yes. Yeah.
In
so
what
they're
form?
continuously developing the cars, coming up with maybe software updates for like the computers in the cars, making small changes to make things a little bit better for the drivers. And then also the same thing, like there's Evo evolutions of the GT3 cars. So usually there's one or two Evo kits, which will change the downforce a little bit after the cars have raced for a couple of years, and it allows them to make the car just a little bit better for the drivers.
How many factory guys are in the pits with you?
So there are, normally on a race weekend, there's probably between 15 to 25, depending on the race. I mean, at Daytona, there were a bunch more just because the cars were brand new, and there were all these kind of updates for the suspension parts and different things that they had figured out in the factory that needed changed through testing. So at Daytona, there were probably like 50 or 60 Porsche factory workers, employees, between data engineers, actual engineers from Porsche, and then just parts supply and all that. At Sebring, it was probably closer to 30. And they're not just working with our team. There are 6 other Porsches as well So they're kind of spread between all the teams. But as soon as there's like a small problem in practice or something, all 15 to 20 guys converge on the program, and they're helping you try and figure out what that issue is to get the car back on track.
How many guys are points of contact with the Porsche team in the pits with you that interact with you during the race?
I'd say we normally have like 2 or 3 that are consistently in the pit box, and some they have like a couple of teams that they will float between, but we have our main points of contact, and we'll have normally at least one Porsche guy in the box or gal in the box with us at all times during the race.
So will the 992 be Porsche's car of choice at Le Mans this year?
Not until next year. So the GT3R is or the GT3 category will be replacing GTE in the WEC and Le Mans in 2024. So this season still in WEC, they'll run the RSR.
So what I find exciting is the fact that he's got his foot in the door already to move on up the ladder. I mean, that's just as exciting to me as you racing in all these events.
We know him.
And we know him. That's even better.
Will you watch the TV, the production of the race at all? Do you find any value in going back to watch any of that, or is everything you do coming out of the car?
Usually I'm pulling stuff out of the car. I think it's tough for the longer races. The shorter races, I like to watch the broadcast, but the longer races, you got 12 hours to sift through. Right. And because there's so many classes of cars in the endurance races, it's a little bit harder to find what you're looking for in those. So I think like the middle of the race, the GTD class got quite a lot of coverage because I had people texting me about it.
Yep.
But
while you were driving, right?
Yeah. But I didn't see it till after the race, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Other than that, it's you've got the LMP3 class that gets put. So you got like 5 classes of cars that are all in it, and it spreads the broadcasting. The broadcasters and the announcers for the races do a great job. But it's just there's so much to cover in that 12 hours that if I'm looking for something specific, I'm going to go directly to our in-car footage.
Yeah, because I remember at one point they had talked about when you were leading the race and about how you were also coaching, I guess somebody else that was in the race. You might not have been coaching him at the moment, but that you were also his driver coach as well. And,
yep. So on the weekend, I was to one of the co-drivers, David Brule, who I drive with in the Buda car. I've been coaching him for 4 seasons in the Carrera Cup championships. And then we started racing last year together in the Cayman in the GS category. And then we jumped up to the GTD class this year. And then I do coaching still with Kelly Moss in the Carrera Cup championship. So one of the guys, he's a younger up and coming pro. And he won both of the Carrera Cup races that weekend as well. So it was a successful weekend for us.
Are you going to coach me when I come up to the go-kart track of yours?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
And I
don't know when that'll happen.
Good luck.
How coachable are you, though?
None at all.
At his age, not at all.
Well, hey, it's all about the appearance, It's the perception.
Totally.
Right. Hey, that's Don Armstrong.
Well, you just have to get faster when he coaches you, Don.
And if you have blinkers on those cars, he's going to leave it on.
The whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And didn't Cadillac win
the blinker
event?
is just a finger, one way or the other.
There you go. What did you say about Cadillac?
Cadillac won their class in the event. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that was somewhat driven by the wreck.
Well, are you excited? Aren't you excited about the fact of your prospects and being on with the Porsche team and all that sort of stuff?
Totally. It's a really great program with. So kind of it's a joint venture on this team with Kelly Moss and Riley Motorsports. So obviously Riley Motorsports been in endurance racing for a long time. Kelly Moss has been quite a big Porsche team, one of the most successful for Porsche teams in the world in Carrera Cup. And so being able to kind of bring that partnership together has been a really encouraging program, and kind of bringing Riley to the Porsche family has been exciting. There's been a lot of good synergies between both Kelly Moss and Riley and Porsche Motorsport North America here that we're excited to be a part of that. And being able to we were the first podium for this car in the GTD category. And that was pretty cool. The FAF car as well won the GTD Pro class on that weekend. So it was a very good weekend for Porsche there in the GT category. which
so do
I'm
those
happy to
guys
be a
at the
part of.
FAF, do they wear kilts that match their car during the? No, I guess you can't.
No, you got to wear pants on pit lane, unfortunately.
Yeah. Leaves you out,
Yeah.
Conrad.
That would be funny. That would be funny. Well, and congratulations to you because your fast time kind of matched some of the GTD Pro drivers as well. That's
Sure.
That's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
You're evolving.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Alec, it's always great to talk to you, and I had no clue that you've been so successful with this team, and things are going well for you, and we wish you the best of luck. We're going to be following you, and when you have
Awesome.
another
I
weekend
appreciate
off,
it.
we hope to touch base with you and get the latest on what's going on in your life.
We all
Yeah,
want to
that
be
sounds
you.
fantastic.
Yeah, we want to be you. All right, well,
We'll
Alec.
come up to the track. We can make it happen.
All right, brother. Thank you again, Alec
All right.
Udell. We appreciate you, sir.
Thanks.
Talk again
Yeah.
soon.
Take care, guys.
You too.
That is so cool.
And notice that he stayed up the entire time on the video stream.
Yeah.
Wow, wonder what happened there.
Well, he might have
Xfinity. They're great.
Yeah,
They're
Xfinity.
awesome.
I mean, it's, yeah.
because he's young and he knows what he's doing.
Time now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, here's somebody that knows what they're doing when it comes to the car clinic. Conrad has that.
Oh, boy.
Well, we kind of teased a little bit about Kettering and the connection to Kettering that, Jeff had talked about in the Soapbox Derby. I didn't know that about the Soapbox Derby. Some automotive pundits like to say that the 1949 Oldsmobile 88 was America's first muscle car. Though most people would say the muscle car era started in '64 with GTO and all that bevy of hot rod cars back then. But in reality, in 1948, Oldsmobile released the Rocket V8, the overhead valve V8. That was actually a design of Kettering himself. And they had thought about, instead of calling it the Rocket, to call it the Kettering. And there was some design, some production work done on calling it the Kettering. And he said, no, good, call it the Rocket. The 1948 Olds played a far more important and fundamental role in the Motor City's historical timeline. It defined the popular post-war automobile. Oldsmobile offered one package, a modern, fully automatic transmission and an overhead valve high-compression engine, short-stroke V8.
Would that be the power slide transmission?
No, this was actually a 4-speed, and
Oh, wow.
everybody called it the slush box because it didn't
Oh, yeah, I
really
remember that.
connect very well.
Yeah.
But that was the original automatic. Cadillac shared it as well. It was a turbo hydromatic, but everybody referred to it as the slush box back in the day.
Slush-o-matic. I remember that.
And in the American market, Oldsmobiles were very popularly priced vehicles, and part of the reason for that was the engine that Kettering had designed for it. Made them extremely successful in NASCAR. Cadillac at the same time also had an overhead valve V8, except theirs was oversquare and the Oldsmobile was undersquare. Oversquare and undersquare talks about the length of the stroke and the width of the bore and the differences between the two of them. Some of them have more torque, some of them rev better. So the undersquare engines tend to rev better, where the oversquare engines tend to have more torque. The Cadillac was an oversquare engine. So it had a lot more torque, a lot of ability to move the weight of a Cadillac. While both Cad and Olds were overhead valve V8s and were based on the groundwork of GM's research development, Kettering was involved in both engine designs, and they shared no common components. At the time, Oldsmobile's engine displaced 303 cubic inches, and the Rocket again boasted the oversquare proportions of the bore and stroke, and that advanced layout is what led to its high performance. And then at some point, it became the all the way up to a 455 cubic inch engine. The original Rocket.
Is this
V8,
a long report?
Yeah. The original Rocket V8 only had 7.25 to 1 compression, which is actually pretty low compression, even by today's standards, extremely low. But I think a lot of that was driven by the fuel availability of the time. And again, the old V8 would eventually grow in the early 60s to 394 cubic inches, and then in the 70s on up to 455. Using compression ratios up to 10.5 to 1.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Just checking. That's a lot. Thank you.
You lost me at Olds 88.
Well, it was just kind of talking to the history of how that engine created a buzz in the industry, and then Chevrolet came out with their overhead valve.
Well, let's not forget that they're part of the GM umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
GM must face class actions in U.S. court over defective transmissions.
Uh-oh.
A decision by U.S. District Judge David Lawson covers several Chevrolet and GMC trucks and SUVs, several Cadillac models, the Corvette, the Camaro, all equipped with the 8L45 or 8L90 8-speed automatic transmissions. The judge has certified class actions for drivers in 26 U.S. states, including Texas, who accused General Motors of producing faulty transmissions for about 800,000 vehicles from 2015 through 2019. Drivers said the transmissions cause vehicles to shudder and cause harsh shifts. Got to say that with caution, including hesitations, lunges, lurches, and making them feel as though they had been rear-ended.
Wasn't he the butler on the Addams Family? Lurch.
That sounds like your wedding night.
Yep. Yeah. It does.
Lunges, lurches, and a hard shift.
In the rear end.
In the rear. No.
Yeah, we left Mars behind on that one. For many electric vehicles, there's no way to repair or assess even slightly damaged battery packs after accidents, forcing insurance companies to write off cars with few miles, leading to higher premiums and undercutting gains from going electric. And now those battery packs are piling up in scrapyards in some countries, a previously unreported and expensive gap in what was supposed to be a circular economy. Battery packs can cost tens of thousands of dollars and represent up to 50% of an EV's price tag, often making it uneconomical to replace them. While some automakers like Ford and GM said they have made battery packs easier to repair, Tesla has taken the opposite tack with its Model Y, whose new structural battery pack has been described by experts as having zero repairability. A Reuters search of EV salvage sales in the U.S. and Europe shows a large portion of low-mileage Teslas, but also models from Nissan, Hyundai, Stellantis, BMW, Renault, and others. EVs constitute only a fraction of vehicles on the road, making industry-wide data hard to come by, but the trend of low-mileage, zero-emission cars being written off with minor damage is growing. Tesla's decision to make battery packs structural, part of the car's unibody, has allowed it to cut production costs, but risks pushing those costs back to consumers and insurers. Thought you'd like to know that.
Yep.
And a cell phone used as a dash cam paired with a driver safety app is helping users implement safer driving behavior. Data from Driver Technologies shows New York company's Driver mobile app allows a cell phone to be used as a dash cam by recording trips. It also offers safety features such as visual and audio alerts when the vehicle is in danger of a potential forward collision and when the driver becomes drowsy or distracted. Okay, we're going to wrap up today's show after a quick break. Stay with us here on the In Wheel Time Car Talk program.
Tailpipes and Tacos, Houston's premier car cruise-in returns Saturday, April 15th to the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m. Bring your Hot Rod, Classic, Resto Mod, or any other vehicle you'd like to show and compete for one of 3 highly coveted Chili Pepper trophies. This April 15th kickoff event is one you'll want to put on your calendar because 100% of the money you donate for the free tacos will be given to God's Garage. You heard right. Free tacos. Whatever you decide to give, all of it will be given to God's Garage and matched by Lupi Tortilla. God's Garage gifts vehicles to single mothers, widows, and wives of deployed military in the greater Houston area. In fact, the Garage will gift a vehicle to a mom in need at this special event. Be sure to attend the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In, Saturday, April 15th, 8 to 11 a.m. at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Free breakfast tacos for any donation to God's Garage. It'll make your heart and your belly feel good. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Wheel Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InWheelTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Wheel Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. When you're online, check out our Facebook page. Give us a like. Tell your friends about us. Share our junk, if you would, please. You'll get Conrad's Unicorn Hunting features, along with all things automotive all week long, including new car reviews, upcoming events, cruise-ins, racing events, and other informative and entertaining car talk. You can find the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app, and be sure and catch us on the In Wheel Time Car Talk channel on our live video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com every Saturday, 8 to 11 a.m. Central Time. Daily 30-minute podcasts available from over a dozen of your most popular podcast providers. The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is David Ainsley. Our Marketing Advertising Manager and Video Technical Director is We Need More, Jeff Zekin. For Booking Agent and Podcast Fiddler, Mike Curly Joe Mars.
Curly Joe.
Along with Mr. Know-It-All, his royalty, King Conrad DeLong, I'm Don Armstrong. Be sure and join us again for the next live 3-hour In Wheel Time Car Talk Show Saturday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2023, 8 to 11 a.m. Central Time on all of our In Wheel Time Car Talk outlets. Hey, have a great weekend. Stay safe, and let's visit again next week. So long for now.